constitution, and I think Greg's is also going to come in and talk a little bit about what we're using and the model that we're using here. New Zealand has in 2013, I think it was, updated their constitution and updated the sections 22 and 23, the discipline and appeals process, and they asked that all clubs adopt their template, which some clubs did and some clubs didn't. But even if you didn't want to embrace their whole template, they asked that all clubs took those two sections on board, simply because they had had some issues of discipline and some appeals where clubs had not followed the correct process. So they were, and then in the end it ended up with people going to Bowls New Zealand and saying help, help, where at the very basis of the grassroots they had not followed the correct process. So it made it very difficult for Bowls New Zealand then to pick it up and help them. So what they've said is, if you please adopt those, put those in your constitution, and then you can follow the correct procedure. And if it does get to the stage where it gets to the Bowls New Zealand, or likewise to Bowls Canterbury, the process has been followed correctly and your club has done it properly. So the process is in the Constitution, and the Constitution, there's a link to the Constitution at the bottom there. And there is also a set of club regulations that tells you in a little bit more detail how to deal with any appeals or disputes that you might have in your club. So they're two areas, and Greg is going to talk to you about the importance of having things in place to start with, because it certainly makes processes much easier. And the other area that has just been brought to the attention of Bowls New Zealand, and they're a little bit concerned, is when a club folds or decides to wind up, that the Constitution is worded correctly too, because there's some cases where there's been community have got involved in the bowling club. They in one case in Auckland, a church, but people from a church became very heavily involved in the bowling club, and they tried to get that clause, what's 29.3a in the Bowls New Zealand Constitution, and talks about what happens to the money once the bowling club winds up. And this church then tried to get the money to go to their organisation. So Bowls New Zealand is saying, look, and a lot of people believe that the money's got to go to Bowls Canterbury or got to go to Bowls New Zealand. It doesn't. Bowls New Zealand is saying that money has been raised by bowling club people, and that money should go back to bowls. So just be aware, and that there's the wording that is on the in the Bowls New Zealand template, so it's fairly clear. But just be aware that that doesn't happen to your club. I mean, if your club decides it wants to send the money to the community, that's fine. But what we're saying is that you've got to be very careful, because in some cases that could be quite big money, especially if someone owns their land. So just be aware of what you're doing with your money. So that's all I'm going to say about constitutions, and that's the bit of the boring stuff. But there are two areas that you really need to be aware of. And when it comes to disputes, you say, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Who knows what's down around the corner in 2, 3, 4 years' time? And let's hope it doesn't, but let's be prepared so that you're in gear for it. Has anyone got any questions? Or you might want to ask Greg questions. Probably
I'm asked to speak on disciplinary. I wear another couple of hats as well as working with the Southern Trust. I'm a Judicial Justice of the Peace, where we sit in the court. I'm on the Judicial Control Authority for racing. Two of us attend every meeting. Gallops, trots, the whole lot, and stipendiary stewards charge, some of them are involved with that. And I'm on the disciplinary for the Canterbury Rugby Union. And I'm now citing liaison officer for Canterbury Rugby in the ITM Cup, so I live a pretty full-on life. And last year I had some people ring me about different disciplinary procedures, and this is from bowling clubs. We were able to help them, but constitutions weren't up to speed. You know, one club had one that brought in a new constitution and they charged them with this constitution, and the time of the offence it should have been that constitution, and it can get very, very messy. You know, not everyone thinks they're going to need them or use them, a disciplinary hearing, but you do. And I can just reiterate what Lorraine said. Get onto the link, and it's very easy to fill out. You might not think you've got troubles, but sometimes you can. And I mean, it's easy enough just to keep it in the bottom drawer like a contract at work and need it when you do. But when you need it, you do need it. So make sure you can get it out. And it's not always as simple as it seems. You know, there's a lot of very, very technical and meaning interpretation on words is very, very critical. So, you know, life isn't simple, and I can tell you some of these certainly are. And it's just a matter of covering your backsides so that, you know, your club's covered and you've got everything in place for the right reason. Any questions on disciplinary, or?
Should you get a solicitor or someone like that maybe to overview it before you put into your constitution?
I would advise that, although this one here I think has, by Bowls New Zealand has actually been through that thing, but yeah, it's always good. It has, there you go, yeah.
When you're at the racetrack, do you get any winners?
No, don't even bet on them, don't play poker machines. Okay?
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Great. And the next topic that we're going to talk about, I did have to ask him to move away from blocking the fire exit before, is our health and safety man, Bill Bally. So please welcome Bill.